Welcome, scholars. So you're about to wrap up Module 2 with your Excel report. How exciting. I'm going to go ahead and help you set up a basic foundation for your Module 2 Excel report. I'm not going to go into the same detail I did with the last report. I'm going to leave a little bit more for you guys to do, but I will probably end up doing a lot more than I plan. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at our problems here. First of all, what I've done is I've gone through and just did everything I was going to type in. I have not done anything for these problems that would include any calculations or automatic calculations with Excel. All I did is go through here and type in the information from each problem. But you guys should not do all this first. You should do it one problem at a time, because then you'll have to add sheet rows or move stuff around. It'll just be easier to do it one at a time. Our first problem here has given us a little chart of a poll that was taken of 500 guys and 500 girls in 2008, asking them their opinion about whether or not government bailout money should be used to help homeowners. So for our first part alpha here, it's asking us to find the probability that any person said no. Part Bravo is asking us to find the probability of a woman who said no. Part Charlie's asking us to find the probability that a man says no or not sure. Then a man says yes or not sure. I just realized that when I was reading it and looking at my Excel over here. All right, and then Part Delta is asking us to explain what kind of probability is being used and then describe how the probability can be used. So which type of probability are we using and how can we use it? And I'll answer that a little bit verbally at the end, but I'm not going to type it out. All right, so let's go ahead and just get started with this problem. Here I have my little chart happening. I do like to outline my chart. So I select my chart and then I'm going to go to more borders in this case, or line style. And actually, if you guys go to line style, most of your line will be this first one up here. And you guys have all these different options that you can choose. I just choose this one at the bottom because I like the way it's nice and dark, and it really gives me a good border. And now I've got this pin, but I don't want that, so I'm just going to hit escape. All right, and then go back to my borders now that I've selected that nice thick border and click outside, no, all borders. And now I have nice thick borders around everything. I'm also realized that right here I forgot to write min. I am going to fill this in with just some light color. I just kind of like to see my labels in one color. All right, now there are a few things that we need to answer these questions. If we're looking for probability, the probability of an event, remember that the probability of an event is actually listed right here in number 2. It's it's a fraction, and the probability of an event is, I don't know if I should, it's kind of, the event happening over the number of possible outcomes. So we do create a fraction when we're looking for probabilities, and let's go ahead and do that for number 1. I want to know the probability that somebody said no if they were a person. So I'm not, right here, I don't really care if I'm dealing with a male or a female. It's just the probability if they were a person. All right, I am going to open another file where I have this open just because I don't know why that got blurry there. So now we've just got a little bit of a, all right, here we are. The probability that a person said no. Well, how many people said no? I have to add these up. I don't really feel like adding them up. I'm going to move this over too. And I'll just bring back what one of my favorite students said to me just a couple weeks ago. He said, Miss Benzie, I love the auto sum button. The auto sum button is right here. You can find sums, averages, count, min, max, But if I just want to add stuff together, I just click Auto Sum. And that's Rooster Cogburn. We call him Rooster after the John Wayne movie. Because Rooster Cogburn's a cool guy just like John Wayne. All right, so the people who said yes, there were 435 of them. The people who said no, 500. All the people combined who said they weren't sure, there were 65. And I'm going to go ahead right up here and write total. What about, can we also get a total of men and women? We already know what that is. The problem told us, but I'm just going to go ahead and total it out here because I love the auto sum button also. And I'm going to write total here. Maybe if I would have done this beforehand, could have spared myself a little extra time in outlining everything. But easy enough. And if I want to double check all of my work, I can even auto sum this and make sure it hits 1,000, which it does. And 500 and 500 is clearly also 1,000. My totals, I'm actually going to change the color. I do like the totals to have a little bit of a different color than the rest. All right, so now let's see what we have. The people who said no, I had 1,000 people altogether, and 500 of that 1,000 said no. Now for my women, you see how part of that word disappeared when I typed in the cell? I'll show you guys how to deal with that here in just a second. Now I want to know who said no if they were a woman. In other words, it's just who said no if they were a woman. So who said no given they were a woman? There were 215 women who said no, and there were 500 women altogether. So I'm going by this right here. Who said no given they were a woman? This is conditional probability. A lot of you noticed that on your actual homework question, they had a denominator wrong in one of these problems. So if you recognize that, you did an extra good job understanding your homework. In this case, I want to know who said yes or not sure if they were a man. So I don't care about the women anymore. If they were a man, conditional probability. Who said yes or no if they were a man? Well, all the men who said yes, yes or not sure. All the men who said yes and all the men who said not sure. I know that's easy to add in our head, but I'm going to let Excel do it for me. Equal sign, not sure, plus yes equals 215. So now right here I have actually the same fraction from above. I could cut and paste it, but I'm not going to do that. Divided by all the men, 500. All right, now, were we a little aggravated or frustrated, or if not even that, we would just like to see the rest of what is in these cells. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch these out a bit. I just want to be able to see everything. All right, looks like I have all the way up to my equal sign there. And what about these? This says reduced fraction decimal to the thousands place, percent to the tenths place. And if I click in here, that rest of that one's gone. So instead of making all of these real long and pushing this off the board, I'm going to go ahead and select this row instead of the column, and I'm going to make it a little wider. Then I am going to select these guys that are all too long for their cells, or the words are too long. Right click, format cell, alignment, and then wrap text, and I guess you can't wrap and shrink to fit, but we can do that ourselves. So we'll just wrap the text, hit enter, and I still don't have decimal to the thousandths place, percent to the tenths, and when I said I would shrink to fit myself, that's exactly what I'll do. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a 8 font and widen this just a little more. And I also just think that all of this would look better if it were centered. So now I have that. Okay, so here are my fractions. Now I want each of these values. You have a couple choices here. You can just copy and paste these into here, or another thing that you can do is you can select these and you can have Excel reproduce them over here. You just have to be very careful. Look, do you see how this very first top fraction changed it from my denominator from 1000 to 1001? Sometimes that happens. So always be careful when you're reproducing something. Excel will often try to revalue it or make a guess at what you want to do. So I really like just Control C, Control Charlie, Control Victor for cut and paste. Now, you notice it says reduced fraction. You guys have a reduced fraction calculator in your Blackboard, but guess what? You don't need that because watch what I'm about to do. Once I put an equal sign in here, Excel's actually going to do the math for me. Hit enter. I know it's a decimal. That's okay. So I'm just going to do all these at once. All right, now I'm going to select all of these and I am going to go up to my numbers grouping and select fraction. And looky there. It reduces all my fractions for me. And now I am going to, I've already cut and paste those, so I'm just going to control. Oh, it's all right. Control C, Control V. Except this time I don't want a fraction, I want a decimal. So to get a decimal, I just press on number here. And there I have my decimals, but it says decimal to the thousandths, and this is only to the hundredths. So I go right up here to these little values to tell Excel to move my decimal place one way or the other. This is clearly going the wrong way. See how it rounds it for me and everything? Is that cool or what? So to the thousandths place, there are 3 decimals. There it is. Now I'm going to again Control C and Control V. And now I want percent, so I have this little percent symbol right here, or I can do, you can see it tells me to do Control Shift percent, or I can just click my little down arrow here and find percentage. And it says percentage to the nearest tenths. These zeros go to the hundredths place, which doesn't really matter because they're zeros, but I can move my decimal, or not move my decimal, but move my place values to include as many as I want. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and include that first 0 to the right just to show my reader that I did round to the nearest tenths place. All right, a couple other things I'm going to do here. I am going to give this thing some borders. I'm going to give this table some borders. I am also going to give, once I selected that top piece, I'm going to hit Control on my keyboard and select the downward side. If you want to try that, you can. Let's see. I didn't like the way I selected that part twice. And then I'm just going to go ahead and color it. All right. Now, the next thing that I would do here, here's just a little calculation I don't really need for anything. Just move it up there since I already have it. All right, so I do need some more space. You guys shouldn't need more space because hopefully you did not go about typing all this in before you did any math. So I'm going to select as many rows as I can. I didn't select the row touching this box. I guess I can just to show you what happens. And then I'm going to insert some sheet rows. See how this one grabbed that yellow and did that? And then if I try to get rid of the yellow, my lines are gone. It just makes a mess. So the best idea, if there's another way to do it, I do not know, but all I do know is that if you just don't touch that border, it won't happen. And then I insert some sheet rows. I still want a little more space, so I'm just going to insert sheet rows again. And there may be easier ways to do that, but that's just how I know how. Now I'm going to insert a text box here. Some of you don't have insert a text box. If you cannot just insert a text box, then you will just click on a cell. Well, actually what you can do, you can click on a cell, type in the cell, all you want, and then select a bunch of cells, merge them, right click, and go back to formatting the cell and wrapping it like we did with these pieces up here. And sometimes if you have a different version of Excel, you'll have to Google some of the things I do. But that's part of the learning process. All right, so right here, you're just going to talk about there was a survey done in 2008 of 500 men, 500 women asking their opinions in a poll. And we found that there was about 50% of the people who said no. Then we learned that if you chose a woman, the probability that she said no was 43%. If you chose a man, the probability that he said yes or he's not sure was 43%. And the probabilities used here are empirical probabilities because they were actually done, they were actually calculated from a survey or an experiment. And I can use my empirical probability to, if the empirical probability was collected with a good survey that was unbiased and random samples were taken, then the probability that I found from this survey can be used to project outcomes, to project what you think is going to happen on a larger population. So you guys are going to write all about that in here. All right, I am going to move on to number 2. All right, here we are on number 2. Number 2 is one of our dice rolling problems. You will find that there will be a problem in each module that you had during module 1, because that's where those module 1 questions came from, one from each of your regular module Excel exam questions, Excel report questions. So on number 2, it says that we're going to take 2 dice. And when we did this in module 1, we only cared about the sum of the dice. In this case, we care about both the sum and the product. And we're going to find the probabilities of different outcomes happening. So I have gone ahead and typed in all of this information, as you already know. And I'm going to just make this a little smaller. Also, when you guys are doing this, I don't expect that all you have done is what I've done here. I would like to see number 1 with some kind of title about that this is a probability question. I just need a little more detail than what I've done here. So give me a nice title for each of these questions, please. Number 2, the probability of rolling different outcomes, rolling dice. So just make sure you guys put that in there also. All right, so for number 2, we are going to deal with outcomes of both sums and products. So let's see what that's going to look like. I kind of wish I would have given myself a little more room here, but I didn't. And I'm also going to, I'll tell you what I can do. You see how right here I have the fraction, reduced fraction, decimal to the nearest thousandths, and percent. It has all the same stuff here. It says everything it did on number 1. So I'm actually going to just copy and paste this so that I don't have to do all the wrapping and all that stuff. It'll just do it for me. Isn't that cool? And then I can also make this blue if I want to. And make myself an outline chart here. All right, now I want a couple of multiplication and sum charts. So let's see what we're going to do with that. I'm going to add a couple sheet rows here. See why you do not need to type all your stuff out first. All right, now when I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and add my pieces right. I don't know where to add them. I guess I'll just do it right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is a sum. You guys see these weird symbols over here? Well, the sum symbol, if you look on Google, you can see that I have math symbols for sum and product. And the sigma is the symbol for sum, and then you have this other Greek letter, which you may recognize, looks a lot like the regular pi symbol that we use, but this is a capital pi and a capital sigma. And the capital pi is the annotation for the product, and the capital sigma is the annotation for adding things together. So sum and product is all this says here. And you see that the first thing we're looking for is the sum, the probability of rolling the sum, that the sum is an even number. Well, I put the sum is 2 times n because you guys, 2 times any number is what? Even. So 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 5 is 10. So instead of writing even, I just wrote the sum of 2 times a number. You may or may not like that. If you don't, you can just write the sum, S-U-M, of an even number, and that's perfectly fine. So the first thing I want here is to create my chart. So here I'm going to, and you can find those symbols right here. You go to insert a symbol, and then you search through your symbols. I've already found mine, so mine are in my recently used, which is always nice. I love my recently used symbols here. But sometimes you just have to really search through here, one line at a time, till you find what you're looking for. And, whoops, I meant to insert a sigma. And I'm even going to make it really big just for fun, because it's kind of cool. 28, that's my favorite number. And I'm even going to center it, because I want to. All right, so this is going to be my chart for sums. I'm going to have 1, 2, and I'm rolling a regular die that we're used to looking at. So that has 6 sides. Now that I have my 1 and 2, I'm going to let Excel go ahead and fill in the rest for me up till 6. I am also going to center those. Right here, I'm going to type in 1 and 2, and then I am again going to let Excel go ahead, and if that happens, it just means I didn't select it properly. So select both of those, then drag it down to 6. All right. Now I'm going to end up with this nice chart. I'm going to go ahead and outline this right now. And then I'm also going to give my headliners a color. Kind of sick of using blue, so let's go with the peach that I love. All right, now this is the sum, so I'm adding these things together. So I'm going to do equals 1 plus this number right here. So I'm going with this 1 to the left, and then I'm going to add it to the number above. And then what's going to happen now is I can just do this, and Excel will add 1 to every number above. Now right here, I'm going to do 2 plus. And there are other ways I can do this. Let me show you. The reason I did 1 here instead of selecting this one is because of this. Watch. If I would have selected 1 plus 1, you see how I have Hotel 25? Remember, we named these by the column and then the row. So I have Hotel 25 plus India 24, which is this number right here. And that works out fine for that one. But once I start dragging this along, oh, you know what? Yeah. Once I start dragging it along, now it's moved everything over 1 to the right. So it just doesn't work. We have India 25 here, so it's adding the wrong numbers together. And that's why once it gets over here, now it's adding a 4 when it should have been keeping this 1 for every one of these. So I can't do it that way. But what I could do is when I select this 1, if I want it to just stay 1, I could just type 1. But if I want to be fancy about it, and there are some times we're going to absolutely have to use this, especially when we get into finance. If I put a $sign on each side of my column title, which in this case is H, remember hotel, we're using this 1 right here, it will fix that number. So now when I use everything, that 1 is going to stay as a 1. You see, it stays as hotel 25 because I use the number symbol. Students always ask, why does it use a number symbol? Because my guess is that that was the symbol that was left that hadn't been used, that was convenient enough on the keyboard for the amount of times people need to use that symbol. So who knows why, but I'm sure that's some reason like that. All right, so now for this one, I'm going to use the 2. And I'll go, now that I've taught you how to use the number sign, I'll just go ahead and use it. Plus this number. And then I want to apply that all the way across the board. I'm just curious about something. No, it won't. That won't work. I already know it won't work. Never mind. All right, so now I'm going to do this plus this. Whoops. Be careful if you accidentally do that. Make sure you hit enter, because if you click on anything, it's going to start changing your numbers. You've probably already learned that. Equals hotel 28. And remember, you guys, this is a lot about learning how to use Excel. So use these cool features that I'm showing you, because this is the technology required for this class. There's a name for this. It's not called fixing a number. It's called something else, and I cannot remember what it's called when you put the $sign in there. Someone can Google that. All right. And it looks like I forgot to do this one. But wait, what did I do wrong here? Oh, I forgot to add 1. And then this one is all good. I just forgot to drag it across. Click and drag. So you guys say that I said so many times in that first video, but hopefully it helped you learn. Clicking and dragging is a pretty important thing in Excel. All right, here I have my sum, my chart of sums of 2 dice. Now I need a chart of products. I'm going to go ahead and just totally reuse this whole thing. Control C, Control V. I am going to change this symbol. Insert a symbol, and my symbol, I've already found my product symbol. It's just in the Greek letters. It's just the Greek letter pi, capitalized. So it's not as squiggly as your lowercase. All right, these are going to be products. So really, all I have to do here, you guys, is just change this in each of these. I'm going to just right now I'm just changing the first one, and then what I'll do is drag them all over at one time, which we could have done on the chart above also. Since this one's already all assembled for us, it'll be easy this way. All right, now I am going to ask Excel to apply everything I've done here to the entire chart. If the place where this 12 is turns out to be 36, I know I'm good. All right, there we go. How was that for easy schmeezy? I'm also going to change my, what do you think? Should I change them? I guess. Let's change it to a nice, what, green? Just add some color to our Excel here, make it more interesting. Alrighty, here we are, folks. Now I'm ready to answer some probability questions. I want to know, see if I can make this just a little smaller. I want to know the probability of the sum of an even number. So let's see. I'm going to choose every even number that I see in this chart. There's 2. Once I select a number, I can hold the control key down and start. Although I just thought of something. What I thought of is the fact that before I start doing anything, I'm going to need to calculate 2 different sum values and 2 different product values. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easier for me, is I am going to select all of this, copy it, and then I am going to put it over here, paste it right in there. And now I can do all of my calculations this way. And if I want to be really cool, now that I think about it, I could actually what if I did that instead? Now it's a little too big. With that parentheses gone, it's okay. There, I like that, don't you guys? And then this will be the product of our primes. Instead of just a product, now we have these things labeled very nicely. I should have left this for some of you to figure out how to do on your own, huh? Well, sometimes I just think of things and I get too excited. All right, and then we had the sum, the probability of a sum of a multiple of 3. Hopefully you can see that's the sum of 3 times a number. A multiple of 3 means 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, so it'd be 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, darn. All right, so I'm just going to keep going on, but you guys get the idea of what's happening here. So here we have the probability of a sum of an even number. The sum of an even number is any number times 2. So I'm going to click this first 2. I'm going to hold my control key down on my keyboard, and I'm just going to go through and start clicking even numbers. It's for some reason clicking one behind everything I click. I don't know why, but it's working. All of the even numbers. All right, 12 did not highlight. I'm just going to see if it worked. I took my finger off the control key now. And I am going to choose some color here. How about a nice peacock blue? Oh, that's pretty, isn't it? Peach and blue. I'm only rebordering this because of that one box up there. And it's just because I have my font too big. If I make my font to a 16, it'll be okay. All right, so how many even numbers do I have here? Well, if you guys really think about it, you probably know that there should be an even number of even numbers. But then we don't have that 1. So what do we have here? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. We have 18 out of how many outcomes? 18 out of 36. All right, and then it wants this as a reduced fraction. Well, we already know that we just have to put the equal sign in there and select that, and it will It did not reduce the fraction. So I do need to copy and paste it. All right, and I can do that again. Control C, Control V, Control V. All right, and you guys could do this before or after. You might do all of these for every single one of them and then come up here and select fraction, decimal to the nearest thousandth, and percent to the nearest tenths. All right, now let's look at the product of a prime number. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys finish this off. I'm not going to do every one of these for you. I think you can, make this look nice on your own. And then, of course, you will insert a text box. Don't forget about your summarizations, guys. These are extremely important. And tell me all about the probabilities that you found. And what else does the question ask? That's it. Tell me about the probabilities that you found and give me a little conclusion. The summarization is a big part of the grade. And I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' work on this. And I'm going to move on to number 3. All right, guys, here we are on number 3. Number 3 is number 23 on your homework. Most of you skipped it, although I did have a good probably dozen students who still got 100 on all of their homework. So good job, you guys who struggled through this. And there always is that handful of folks who are dead set on that 100%. So keep up that good work. You guys will definitely go far with that type of effort, even though 80% is all you need. All right, to get the rest of your credit. Here we are, guys. This is a lottery. This is a joke. This is what the author says. A joke among math and stats folks is that lotteries are an attack on people who are bad at math. So, in other words, what they're saying is if you're bad at math, you're not going to figure out the expected outcome. And that's what this problem is all about, finding the expected outcome. And that might be a good label for number 3, the expected outcome. I'll just go ahead and do this right here. I'm going to select a few of these cells. I'm going to merge the cells. And then right here, I might write expected outcome of winning a scratch-off. Scratch-off lottery. That's good, huh? You guys can come up with something better maybe. And then I'm just going to move all this down one because I don't like things all cluttery. I guess I moved it down too, which is fine also. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have typed all of this stuff in here. I will go ahead and show you. Well, first let's look at the problem. Here, our winning lottery, send winning tickets to the following. This is actually the back of a real lottery ticket. That's how your author works. He uses all real life information. So here we have the expected outcome, the probability. It says that these are odds, but really these are probabilities. The probability of scratching a $5 ticket is 1 in 14. The probability of scratching a $10 ticket is 1 in 8.57, and so on. And all I've done here, folks, is I've made some columns, and I wrote the ticket amount, the ticket winning amount, and then I wrote the outcome, because this is what you have to think about with this problem. If you scratch a ticket and you win 0, what was your personal outcome? Well, it was negative $5 because you spent $5 on the ticket. If you scratch a ticket and you win $5, this is a ticket that won $5, you personally broke even. You spent $5 on the ticket, you won $5, you actually had an outcome of 0. if you scratch a ticket and you win $10, what you really won was $5 because the ticket cost $5. So expected outcome of winning a, let's do a $5 scratch off ticket. And that's good, or you could say it costs $5 as long as you tell me something that the thing costs $5. All right. The problem up here never gave us the probability of winning nothing, of winning 0. So I've just placed a question mark right there. A couple of other things I want to show you guys, because when you type this in, this is what's going to happen to you. Some of these, you see where I had to put this little comma here, and I know we've gone over this before, but this little comma, if I don't put the comma there, then Excel turns this into a date. It's always trying to guess things that I want to do, and then if I go up here and I'm really clever and I'm going to turn it into a fraction, it does not give me my fraction. So if there's another way to do this, I do not know. All I do know is how to do it this way. So if your numbers will not give you what you need and you keep getting a date or some weird thing, then all you have to do is put that little comma. See the formula bar up here? Put that little comma right before it and it will stay a fraction. Okay? So here I have the amount you scratched on the ticket, the amount you personally won, and then the probability of winning that amount. And I went through and I gathered all of that from this data. And yes, it takes a long time. It's aggravating. When I did this, I actually drew on my document with that yellow highlighter, and I had highlighted 5 and 14, and then I would undo it and highlight the next one. So I took a lot of care, and then I even still had stuff wrong, and I had to go back and change my fractions. Where it was 48, I had 148 on my denominator. So things like that. So you have to go through, be careful. It takes some time. So you only have 6 problems for your entire exam. So I hope you guys will take the time to do this properly. And then plus I've already put it in here so it's easy to check. And this also is the exact same problem that's on the example for number 23. So you guys can also look at your example in your homework for this one. Or for any of these. All of these come from your homework. And they're not all the example, but I didn't have time to keep checking all of these answers. So that's why I use the example here. All right, because there can be some small tedious errors, but once you get it, then once you get all of this entered correctly, the rest of it goes pretty easily. All right, so let's have a check now at the actual percentage of these probabilities. What I am going to do here is copy and paste all of these. You guys are not going to want to just drag these over here because your numbers are all going to change. So I'm going to press Control C and then Control V. And I am going to just start on these one at a time. Backspace equals enter. And that's what I'm doing. Not all of them needed a comma. Those were only the ones that made Excel think that it needed to put a date. So if you need to backspace some of them, whoops. And when you guys are doing this, make sure you do get this column of the probabilities. We need to be able to see those probabilities. This one, all right, so here's a good example of something that's going to happen to you. Even though I took the comma away, I put the equal sign, I hit enter, it's still giving me a date. So now I simply click on it. And then I go up here to number, and it will give it to me. Okay, number always automatically by default gives me to the hundredths place rounded, but we'll deal with that after at the end. I'll show you guys how to change that. All right, but for now, I'm just going to go through and just get my equal sign inside of each one of these so that I can have Excel do the actual calculations for me. This one's going to probably cause me problems also. See, yep, I got a problem on that one, so I just hit number. And actually, you guys are looking at that thinking, well, why aren't you hitting percent? And that's what I probably should have done. Actually, I see something else I should have done differently. And it was just that this percentage, I'm going to scoot over here. And then I'm going to let this one still be probability. Because this is going to be probability as a fraction. And, probability as a decimal. And then again, just going to extend these a little and wrap these. Format my cell. Wrap. I'm just going to see what shrink to fit does because I actually don't know. Oh no, I don't like that. It's too small.